with Sue Wittig on the right, Jeff Cohen on the left. As always, speaking out.
And welcome to tonight's edition of Speak Out. My name is Sue Wittig, on the right side of the screen and the right side of the issues, but my guest today doesn't look anything like Jeff Cohen. A very special guest. This is Lois Shapiro-Canter. You are the New York State head of the National Organization for Women, is that right?
That's correct.
Very good.
Sue, it's very nice being with you here this evening.
Pleasure to have you. And of course, we're live here in the studio taking your phone calls at 1-888-RNN-CHAT. I'm going to let Lois set the question for tonight's program. Is family planning at risk? Are family planning services being curtailed? Lois seems to think so. Lois, I'm going to give you the floor before I answer you. Also coming up in the next segment is another very special guest, Mr. Paul Heady, who is the Vice President of Planning and Communications for Cross River. This is a health service organization that is going to be overseeing the merger of several area hospitals, and we're going to be talking to Paul in just a few minutes. But Lois, I want you to set the stage for us. You know, I disagree with your premise, but I want to give you a chance to explain it.
Well, Sue, first of all, thank you for inviting me here. And as you know, I'm the president of the National Organization for Women New York State, the largest women's organization in New York State. We have a concern over the provision of family planning services because of the fact that we see an erosion of these services across the country. There's three main points I wanted to address this evening, Susan. And the first one is the fact that we see religious hospitals merging with non-religious hospitals, and the religious hospitals seem to, on many occasions, develop terms which prohibit family planning services to be provided in the new hospital that is then merged. A new development, secondly, that's occurred in New York State is that Governor Pataki and the Department of Health has allowed for the signing of a contract to allow for Fidelis, which is a Catholic religious entity, to provide Medicaid services to the Medicaid population, and at the same time to deny the provision of family planning services. And third, and very importantly, is the fact that insurance companies across this country are not providing the level of insurance coverage for contraceptives.
All right, well, that lays it out for you. We want to hear from you, 1-888-RNN-CHAT. You can join our discussion by dialing that number. First, let me ask you about a couple of your premises here. Yes, we have seen a trend towards hospitals merging in general because healthcare services are getting so expensive with the different equipment needed to provide those services that hospitals find it more cost-effective to join together so that they all don't have to buy duplicate sets of this very expensive equipment, and that tends to make the hospitals more efficient in an era where the healthcare dollar is just shrinking and, of course, healthcare costs are rising. Now, you object to this simply because when, for example, a secular hospital joins with a religious hospital, such as a Catholic-based hospital, they, believing, for example, that abortion is ending of human life, they believe that contraceptive services are not part of what they, strongly held beliefs, that just because of that, this service is not being curtailed, it's simply being moved off premises. That's not good enough?
Well, let me respond in a few different ways. And the first thing that I'd like to state basically is the fact that we have to keep in mind that family planning services is a really important component of health care delivery for women across this country. Just 2 years ago, the Congress passed the welfare law, which achieved a variety of different things. First and foremost was to curtail the number of unintended pregnancies and also aiming particularly at poor women and to develop a plan for them to access family planning services. It is the position of now that it is running against this purpose of trying to encourage these women to develop independence from the state government, when at the same time allowing for the government to enter into a contract with a religious entity, Fidelis, which then will provide this Medicaid coverage to women, but will say to them, you can't get family planning services through us. You have to go to an outside provider. And let's just put abortion aside for a moment, Sue. Let's pretend that that's not something we're talking about tonight. We're talking about specifically family planning services. Fidelis will not allow for women to obtain family planning counseling, use, information about the pill, IUDs,
okay,
etc.
Let me address that point. We can talk about abortion in a minute. If the organization Fidelis, though, is providing providing good health care services, with the exception of 1 or 2 services which are available to these women elsewhere, paid for by the state, by the way. Isn't that an example of reasonable accommodation? You know, when you're a business person, for example, I have to make reasonable accommodations to disabled people, for example. That doesn't mean that I have to totally change the way I do business. It means I have to make reasonable accommodation. And if that involves then these particular services being given to another organization, shouldn't we take advantage of every available health care provider for the millions of people that need health care?
Well, let's look at what's happened across the state. In Syracuse, for example, Fidelis came in and took over Better Health Care and took over 60,000 new Medicaid patients. In Buffalo, they came in and took over another segment of Better Health Care and took over 40,000 patients. In addition to which, most of these people weren't aware that they were no longer going to be provided family health planning services.
Through that particular organization, though.
Yes,
Family
that's correct.
planning services weren't denied them. Simply their main provider didn't give them. We're going to come back right after this with more with Lois Shapiro-Canter, president of NOW in New York, and Paul Heady from Cross River Health Services, and your phone calls 1-888-RNN chat in just a moment.
9, 10. Ready or not, here I come.
Diabetes is a serious disease that can rob you of the things you take for granted. You can lose a foot or leg to amputation. You can go blind. But there are steps you can take to control this disease. Have your eyes checked once a year. Check your feet for cuts or sores every day and at every checkup.
Hi.
If you have diabetes, find out what you need to know from head to toe. Call 1-800-DIABETES today.
Hi, Mary Tyler Moore here, asking you to think for a moment about diabetes, a disease that threatens 16 million Americans. When you realize that children and young adults with diabetes need up to 6 shots of insulin every day just to stay alive, well, you wonder, why can't we find a cure? When you learn that diabetes kills 179,000 people every year, that it is a leading cause of blindness, kidney failure, heart disease, and amputations, and that it costs our nation over $130 billion every year, you think, well, we've got to find a cure. The Juvenile Diabetes Foundation has just one goal, a cure for diabetes and its complications. JDF has my full commitment. Won't you please join us? To find out how you can help, call us at 1-800-JDF-CURE. That's 1-800-JDF-CURE. Please call today.
I'm Assemblywoman Nancy Calhoun. This year, over 10,000 New York women will be diagnosed with breast cancer, and over 3,400 will die. Early detection is the key. Annual screenings with mammograms beginning at age 40 can save your life. For an appointment, call Cornwall Hospital at 534-7711. And for a brochure, call my office at 564-1330. This phone call could save your life.
Back to Speak Out with Sue Wittig and my guest, Lois Shapiro-Canter, president of NOW in New York State, and Paul Heady, vice president of planning and communication for Cross River. Now, in our last segment, we were talking about Lois is concerned that when you have a merger between a secular hospital and a hospital that, for example, is Catholic-based, that some services that Lois feels are vital are compromised. I don't feel that way, but I don't want to speak for Paul. Paul Heady, you're involved with a merger between a Catholic hospital and a secular hospital in Upper New York State. Why don't you tell us what you think?
Well, I think it's first of all, I'd just like to point out that the board of Cross River Healthcare, which is the joining between Kingston Hospital and Northern Dutchess Hospital, from the very beginning of the process of determining how best to affiliate with our sister Kingston Hospital Benedictine, has been committed from the very beginning to assuring that we would be able to find a mechanism that will allow the hospitals to work together, to improve the health care in the community, to respect each hospital's historic mission, and at the same time to assure that there's full access to the full range of services that are appropriate for community.
All right, well, thank you. I agree. Lois, I want to ask you quickly, but we do have phone calls. I want to go right to the phone calls. You've got two hospitals, which I happen to know personally, who are the largest employers, for example, that deliver vital health services to this community. In order for them to survive, they have to merge, but you say no simply because they're going to move one of those services off premises?
No, that's not what I'm saying, Sue. We're not opposed to mergers. We're opposed to terms of mergers which prohibit the use of family planning services at these merged sites. Family planning services are the most significant portion of a woman's health care. And, you know, the argument's been used when a religious hospital merges with a non-religious hospital. They say, well, we're not going to allow family planning on site, but we'll set up a clinic for family planning. The problem is that then women have to go through another hurdle. It's like an Olympics course they have to go through to get their family planning services. And in some situations, we have found that, for example, if a woman is giving birth and is about to have a cesarean, she may want to schedule a tubal ligation, which is elective. She wouldn't be able to have that at the new merged hospital where family planning services and other types of tubal ligation and other services are prohibitive. She would have to go to a separate clinic, have a separate hospitalization and a separate anesthesia.
Right, Lois,
that's just one of the problems.
Let's give Paul a chance to respond.
Well, I think I'd make 2 points. The first point I'd like to make is that neither the Kingston Hospital nor Northern Dutchess Hospital currently offer formalized family planning services. Instead, we refer our patients to community-based providers who offer these services in non-hospital settings throughout our area. That referral mechanism will continue. The other point, I think, is that while we certainly understand and appreciate the perspective of those women who elect to have a tubal ligation at the time of delivery, and under our current proposal would in fact be required to go to another local hospital in our area. We don't have the luxury of focusing on a single issue. The boards of our hospitals are charged with the stewardship of our vital community resources. We have to look at the big picture. We have to make sure that we've come up with a plan that ensures our ability to maintain our hospitals, provide the services that people rely on, and at the same time provide appropriate and reasonable access within our community and our neighboring communities.
Okay, Paul, we've got so many phone calls. We want to start taking them. 1-888-RNN chat. Let's go to Marta from Poughkeepsie. Marta, you're on Speak Out. Go ahead, please.
Hi, Lois. You go, girl, because, you know, you're right on. That's big picture Mr. Heady's got leaves women out of the picture altogether. This merger business is outrageous. Why should the Catholic Church dictate policy for the public in general? There's a lot of people that aren't Catholic.
Well, Marta, let me ask you a question. You know, we need to respect each other's opinions. What we are asking for is reasonable accommodation so that both opinions can be respected, and to do that while preserving the excellent health care in these hospitals. Paul, do you have something that you want to bring in on this?
I just think it's important to remember that in the affiliation model that we're proposing between Cross River and Benedictine, Kingston and Northern Dutchess hospitals will remain as non-sectarian hospitals. And in addition, the parent corporation that will be forming to guide operations at all three hospitals will be controlled by a non-sectarian community-based board. This in no way is a takeover by the Catholic Church. It's a question of, again, respecting each other's missions and finding a mechanism that allows us to meet the challenges we face.
All right, let's go to Lou from Hurley. Lou, you're on Speak Out. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, I agree with the gentleman. Thank God we live in a country where the secular viewpoint cannot infringe on the religious, or the religious on the secular, for that matter. We have a constitution. This issue has nothing whatsoever to do with abortion. This issue has to do with a hospital that had a policy and it had to merge for economical reasons. That's the only issue.
All right, Louis, I'll give you a chance to respond to Lou quickly, if you would.
Well, let's look at the fact that reproductive health is the most important issue to women in this country. Let's face it, women have a reproductive system, as do men, but 68%, for example, of the out-of-pocket health care costs that women spend are on reproductive health care costs. So therefore, it's important that they have the best delivery care system possible. If there are hospitals that merge with each other, religious with non-religious, and not all prohibit family planning, there are mergers in the state where the religious entity has not prohibited family planning, but where they have prohibited family planning on site, in particular in the Fidelis situation, which addresses the interests of poor women, Poor women often don't have transportation. They don't have adequate child care.
Okay, but these are other issues that can be addressed. I mean, reasonable accommodations so that we can respect each other's beliefs. Let's go, Kath in Red Hook. You've got about 30 seconds. Go ahead, please.
Hi, I'm calling to say that I'm a woman and I don't think reproductive health is the most important part of my health care needs or that of many other women. Women have eyes and hearts and lungs, they have broken bones, and so do men and children. And I think to keep this particular hospital going, the Cross River Healthcare, this is a reasonable merger. And I guess I really resent now or anybody else determining what my health care needs are. Thanks an awful lot. This is an important thing to talk about.
All right, we're going to talk about it a little bit more right after this break, coming back with more of your phone calls at 1-888-RNN-CHAT. Join us in just a moment.
It's a breeze to get free and low-cost consumer information from the U.S. government. All you need is a pen and a postcard and this address. Just drop it in the mail, and you'll get a free consumer information catalog, from which you can order these free and low-cost booklets on topics such as saving money, staying healthy, educating your children, and getting federal benefits, which can make life on this a whole lot easier. Speaking of easy, if you have a computer, you can get the same great information that's in the booklets. Just use this website address to download the information for free. So remember, to get all this great info, use a computer or the corner mailbox. Oh no. Either way, you'll be better prepared for whatever life throws at you. Whoa! Just right. Free info, Pueblo, Colorado, 81009, or see our internet homepage.
Cameras, cameras, cameras. Cameras where you want them and where you least expect them. RNN's Brandon Kinley took you inside the surprising world of hidden cameras to show you exactly who's watching you. He showed you who's watching on the highway, in the school bus, and even how someone might be watching you right now. For the most eye-opening reports on television, watch RNN, your regional news network.
Don't even think about touching that dial, because coming up at 6 p.m., we've got Valley News Live, headed your way. Tonight on Regional News Live.
A suspicious fire in a New Jersey high school. RNN will have that story.
Plus,
we'll take an in-depth look at drinking and driving. Join us for the scoop on that.
Then,
Amtrak is bringing more lines to our region. RNN will head for the tracks.
It all starts tonight at 7, only on Regional News Live. RNN, we know where you live.
Welcome back to Speak Out with Sue Wittig and Lois Shapiro-Canter, president of NOW in New York State. Lois, let's let you respond to Kath from Red Hook, our last caller. And don't forget, you can join our discussion at 1-888-RNN-CHAT. We've been talking about family health care, and we just had an example from Paul Heady, who is the Vice President of Planning Communications for Cross River, about a proposed merger here in upstate New York. But of course, this is not limited to upstate New York. All across the Northeast, these questions are coming up. So Lois, let's you and I get into it, but first I want to give you a chance to respond to our last call.
Well, I just wanted to bring to the attention of the last caller that there was a poll conducted in September of 1997 by the Zogby pollsters, which indicated that over 80% of the people called did not vote favorably in regard to religious hospitals dictating what types of services could be provided there, and that was a general question that was asked. So I differ with you in regard to that, and it is the position of our organization that no religion, no matter what it is, should dictate what types of hospital services should be provided in a particular setting. Well, Sue, you wanted to go on to another question, I believe.
Yeah, just a minute though, this idea about dictating health care services. Now, Catholic hospitals basically say that we believe that both mother and unborn child are patients of ours, and the doctor should do everything for both his patients until, until they're both helped. And this is a wonderful thing for a doctor to say. No doctor in a Catholic hospital would presume that one person's life is any more or any less important than another's. So this is a wonderful perspective to bring to healthcare. And if in bringing that perspective, we strengthen the healthcare delivery systems for everybody, not just women in a particular area, isn't that a good thing?
Well, you know,
Why can't we respect a little bit of the Catholic belief as well?
That is your perspective on that. The National Organization for Women's first and foremost concern is for the delivery services for health care issues for women. And no religion should be able to dictate if family planning services should or should not be provided in a particular hospital setting.
But religious points of view are part of this nation, and if you can make a reasonable accommodation which allows health care to be delivered to everybody, while at the same time respecting a large part of the population's beliefs, why not?
In this particular setting, we have one religion dictating its beliefs upon people who may not share those beliefs, for example.
Right, but if we can
and in particular, when you go to upstate New York, you have 100,000 people who have been drafted without their permission into the Fidelis system, and then Fidelis drafted very confusing types of de-enrollment options for these individuals to opt out of the plan to then select family planning services at a different site. So that is not really giving them the choice that they should be able to have. And let's keep in mind, Sue, also, that with the health maintenance organization move and the managed care move that has come and swept across this country, one important principle has really focused on all of us, and that's consumer choice. Choice of doctors, choice of health care. And when religious hospitals force other individuals who don't share the same beliefs to have to go along with those beliefs and are denied certain basic care, that's not fair to everyone involved.
When the government, through Medicare and Medicaid, pays for services which I and very many other people feel is akin to ending innocent unborn human life, you're forcing me with my tax dollars to pay for something I don't believe in. So to make a reasonable accommodation to accommodate both my belief and your belief is not, is not out of the question as far as I'm concerned. We have callers. Judy from Poughkeepsie. Why don't you get in on this, Judy?
Hi. Well, in relation to everyone having a choice, you already have a choice. You can go to a Catholic hospital that has Catholic doctors.
Not if it goes out of business, Judy. And the point of this merger is, and many other mergers, is that for their financial survival and to be able to provide the best and broadest service of health care, they have to merge. That's their position, and I believe them. But continue your point. I'm sorry.
In Poughkeepsie, both Vassar and St. Francis, a Catholic hospital, merged and are sharing services without being under Catholic doctrine. So mergers can take place without that taking place. And when you segregate women into clinics outside of hospitals, they become targets for Christian terrorists who going around, they have such a sanctity for life, but they don't mind killing people who are already here.
Well, Judy, that's unfair. There are extremists in every movement, but the majority of pro-life people are very concerned about everybody's life. We're going to go to break. We're going to take more of your phone calls at 1-888-RNN-CHAT. Join us.
A mammogram can help find breast cancer early when it can still be cured. But some women don't have access to regular mammograms or live far away from a mammography facility. That's why we have a network of local programs where uninsured women can still get mammograms. And thanks to a new state effort, many local programs even have vans to carry portable mammography equipment closer to you. To learn about local mammography programs, call this number. Now you're closer to good health.
New Jersey schools. Their walls crumbling, their kids in trouble. RNN was the only station to bring you 2 weeks of extensive coverage on how New Jersey plans on paying for education. RNN's Michelle Louie and Ken Pierce asked the tough questions and got straight answers from students.
There's only one bathroom.
Teachers.
They come here, it's like coming to jail.
And the Education Commission.
Bureaucracies tend to swallow money.
When it comes to in-depth reporting, you can count on RNN, your regional news network.
I could never, ever talk to my parents about sex. I mean, that was just like, are you kidding?
I have 8 aunts. They were my role models. They waited until they got married.
I mean, I feel really lucky for that fact that I was able to talk to my parents so openly about sex and about responsibilities.
Respect yourself, protect yourself.
For me, the library has always represented open doors.
You can find out about the whole world, the future.
Who are you going to call when you have an information need? You're probably going to start with your librarian.
I've been searching for that for 3 days, and you pulled it up in 1 minute.
We truly are the university of the people.
I can't imagine living in a community that didn't have a library.
I wish I could go to the library more.
Let's talk about issues that affect you in the Hudson Valley. Watch Valley Journal Live, Fridays at 5:30 p.m. only on RNN, your regional news network.
And welcome back to Speak Out with Sue Wittig, Lois Shapiro-Canter, and your phone calls, 1-888-RNN-CHAT. Let's go to Francis from Cairo. Francis, welcome to Speak Out.
Oh, thank you very much. I'm a picketer at one of these places that you talks about, and the impression we get from family planning is that they're on family planning and they're anti-reproductive services. And the proof is, when a mother listens to us, she has her baby and she's so happy. And that's a reward in itself.
All right, Francis, thanks for your
it.
comments. Let Lois respond.
Well, you know, I think our position is pretty clear that it's up to the woman to make that choice, not up to Francis, not up to any elected official, not up to a judge to make that decision, but it's up to the woman to make that decision, and it's a very private and personal decision. And certainly, we would like to talk a little bit more, I believe, Sue, now about contraceptives in this country.
Sure, but let me also respond to Francis's point. It is also, though, certainly you wouldn't object to women getting more information, such as the information that might be provided by, in this case, a picketer outside a clinic. If the woman doesn't have access to the kind of information that may enable her to make an informed choice, surely you wouldn't object to her getting that information.
Well, you know, if a woman has made the decision to go down to a family planning clinic, then she's probably spent quite a bit of time thinking about it, and she doesn't want some stranger walking up to her on the street and invading her privacy. If he wants to hand her a pamphlet, that's one thing, but to pull her over to the side and invade her privacy is a separate thing.
Well, I don't
and
think
he should respect her privacy. And certainly in light of the Birmingham, Alabama situation, we are certainly not in favor of these mergers between religious and non-religious hospitals that are sending family planning services.
Now listen, that's an isolated
to
incident,
clinics.
and I want to point out that during the Vietnam War, when protesters blew up, a lab and killed a student, nobody said we shouldn't protest against the war because these nut jobs, got involved with the bomb. Let's go to Pam from Rosendale. Pam, it's your chance to speak out.
With that comparison you just made, that's like comparing apples to bananas. It's absurd.
There are extremists in every movement, and we disavow them. You disavow terrorist movements that support your position. Animal rights activists disavow the people that set nail bombs outside of labs.
Sue, let's hear what she has to say for a moment. Excuse me.
Okay, let's go to Pam again.
Pam?
Women have a right to options and to all the information. The only hospitals in this area are Kingston, Benedictine, Northern Dutchess. If this merger goes on and I'm not allowed to have the information that I'd like to know about reproduction and that, then that's wrong. That's not fair.
Now, Pam, we just saw a commercial during the break for a mobile mammography clinic that will go to women and take services to them. Now, you don't have any objection to that. Simply going to another location to get those services seems to me, to be a reasonable accommodation so that we can each respect our individual beliefs.
Sue, I think what Pam is getting at is that women's services should not always be made the exception for women's health care. Women's health care should be provided at a central location. She shouldn't have to run to one place for family planning, another place for cervical cytology screening, another place for tubal ligation. By the time she gets done, she's going to need a chauffeur.
Well, we're out of time, and we thank you for watching today on Speak Out. Join us on Monday at 5:30. We come back live again with your phone calls. Thanks, Lois.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Susan.
it.
Very nice to see you.
Nice to see you again. Bye, everyone.
Soul music in the 70s.